Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and what we're going to do right now is talk about my favorite family games of 2022. So again, family here is kind of a nebulous thing, but I'm just saying, hey, you got a family, these are some games to play. Of course, every family is different, but these are games that I would recommend. I have just 10 of them, and let's get started. So first of all, number 10, we have Heat, Pedal to the Metal. So Days of Wonder is back, baby. That's this new game from Days of Wonder. It's a racing game. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of racing games out there. Many of them kind of focus on betting. So like Downforce, great game. But that focuses more on betting than the actual racing. But this game is all about racing. And most racing games tend to move slowly. In Heat, you are zooming around the board. Man, that is such a refreshing change of pace because most games don't do that. It's a fast racing game. It's a little odd the way that the Heat and the cards work in the game, but you can play basic game, a slightly more advanced game, but they both just play smooth and fast, and I found it to be a lot of fun. Number 9 is Kites. Kites is a timer-filled game. These are like you're trying to keep a bunch of kites in the air, so you have a bunch of timers. And so it's a cooperative game, and you're playing a card to flip a timer over. You don't want to flip it over too early because if any timer runs out, you lose. It's a very quick, moving, quick-based game, but very fun, especially if you like speed games. Number 8 is Scooby-Doo, the board game. Scooby-Doo, the board game. This is a family weight cooperative game. There's a lot of cooperative games out there at this point in time. This one has some similarities to Pandemic. And so in this game, you are trying to stop whoever the people you need to unmask are. You know, those different monsters and villains, and you're moving around kind of like a theme park and collecting enough clues so that you can solve it, setting traps for the bad guys. But it's very simple and very basic, but I think the theme comes out very well. Number 7 is Key to the Kingdom. This is a reprint from Restoration Games of an older game from the 90s called Key to the Kingdom. But this one is updated for modern times. Rob Daviau is really good at doing that. And what this game has is a board that you actually open the board up or close the board and you're jumping through portals. It is a roll and move type game where you roll a die to see how far you move. That sort of thing is kind of old. So this game allows you to use different items to affect your different rolls. In many places you go around the board, you need to accomplish a mission. There's a little book with little stories in it that you have to do. But whenever you do these things, you can maybe spend a sword to add 4 to your roll or spend this to subtract 3 from your roll. So it adds a lot of variability and kind of really makes the game fun, and it works really well for families. That's Key to the Kingdom. Number 6 is the Wizard of Oz Adventure Book, another cooperative game because kind of cooperative games work really well with families. This one's based on a movie that you may have heard of, The Wizard of Oz, and does a really good job of walking through that. This is the second in the series, I think. The first one was The Princess Bride, also a great game. But The Wizard of Oz, you're going through a book and just different parts of the movie, The Wizard of Oz. And then each part they all kind of play very similarly, but they have different rules in each game. And you're trying to just get together and accomplish them and make it all the way through the book to win. Not very long. It sounds like it's long going through this, but each page is not particularly long and it's a lot of fun. Number 5 is Planted. Planted is a game about, well, planting plants in your house, something a lot of people like to do. And so in this game, you are collecting resources, great components in this game, by the way. You collect these resources, you're collecting water, and you're collecting sun and things like that, and plant food. And you are then just putting out these plants. And each plant's going to score you points each time that you give it exactly what it needs. It offers some pretty good strategic choices, but does so in a very easy, simple way, and uses a mechanism I like in games called drafting, where you have a handful of cards, you pick one to keep, pass the rest to the next person, and that just makes it a lot of fun. That's Planted. Speaking of drafting, my number 4 is also a drafting game, and that is The Great Split. The Great Split is a game in which you are splitting up an inheritance or something, and again, you're drafting, but in this game it's a little bit different because you are passing cards to your neighbor, and then you're offering them two choices. You split these cards, you get a bunch of cards. Ooh, I want these gems, I want these diamonds, I want this artwork, and then you pass it, you split into two groups. They're going to pick one of those groups and then give the other one back to you. So you're trying to make it so that they pick the group that you want them to pick, which is tricky, while someone else is offering you another split. So yeah, I'm going to choose from these two, and I'm going to keep the one that you didn't choose, put them together, and then score. Really simple, basic game, but I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed this one. A lot of fun, definitely worth checking out. That is The Great Split. Number 3 is Familiar Tales. Familiar Tales is from Plaid Hat Games, and this is a kind of an adventure game. I shouldn't say sort of it is an adventure game where you are a bunch of people tasked with protecting a princess as a baby, but she grows up over the course of the game. But you're protecting this princess, and you have different magical powers. There's a story. There's an app that comes with the game. Different enemies show up. You go around and fight. This is a little more complex than the other games I put on this list, but because it's cooperative, because you're working together, and the storyline is definitely really fun and back and forth, I think a lot of people are going to like Familiar Tales. Number 2 is a little dice game called Spots. I really enjoy Spots. This is kind of one that I would almost put in a stocking stuffer type situation, because Spots is just a game in which you have dogs with spots on, and you're rolling dice, putting those dice onto different dogs, but you're choosing one of different cards in the middle. The card you choose will give you a certain amount of dice to roll, but you can roll too many dice. You don't have anywhere to put those dice, then you bust, and all the dice of your dogs go away. And so you have to kind of walk a little fine line. It's a very simple game, though, with simple but good decisions. And I tend to like really heavy games sometimes, but this small, really light game definitely charmed me, Spots. And number 1 is a game that caused some division here in the Dice Tower because some people hate it, but I love it, and that's Challengers. In Challengers, you're playing a game of capture the flag. So think of this as a game of war. Remember that game of war where you each turn over the top card of your deck and see who wins? This game is very similar to that, but in this one, you get to build your deck in between turns. You draw some cards, decide which cards to keep in your deck, then you shuffle it and fight somebody. You do that 7 different times. You're fighting different people each time over capture the flag, and whoever wins the most points. It's silly, it's crazy, it's insane, it's random, but it's fun. I really like this game a lot. I like the capture the flag theme. I like the silly artwork. It just all comes together, and I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy this one. So those are my 10 favorite games for families from 2022. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time.